What is the possibility that the whole non-proliferation regime that has mostly held up ever since the 50s, that begins to crumble as countries begin to make business decisions?
I think this is the big issue that people are not paying enough attention to. I think the reality is we're going to be in a world where South Korea and Japan are talking about nuclear capabilities, either shared with the United States, it's some sort of dual key option like what has existed in Europe, or potentially independent nuclear capabilities over the next decade or two. And the reason is, in my mind, sort of threefold. Number one is that they live in a world where North Korea has now a robust nuclear capability, right? Maybe 100 nuclear weapons, warheads. China and Russia are both building up. China is building up extremely rapidly, and the Russians are making explicit nuclear threats. At the same time, what's happened on the deterrence side? Well, it's not clear, right? The United States has talked at some times about sort of withdrawing from South Korea at the very least, not necessarily withdrawing from Japan, but the Japanese certainly have their own concerns. So there's less political confidence across the South Korean public, and I think slowly over time, potentially also in Japan, about the viability of the US nuclear deterrent and the extended deterrent that applies to Japan and South Korea. So that's the second factor. And then the third is just that the world looks more dangerous now than it did a few years ago, right? Ukraine really scared a lot of people in East Asia. The Japanese prime minister, both the current one and the previous one, have both made this comment that Ukraine today could be Taiwan tomorrow. And that fear, I think, has grown. And so I think those three factors mean that we are in a world in which deterrence is eroding, including on the nuclear side. And our allies may be considering, in South Korea, they're sort of openly considering this, but our allies may be acquiring some sort of nuclear capabilities on their own or with us in some sort of shared nuclear arrangement